Say like, no, that's two more weight classes. Like once he gets touched by Canelo, it's gonna be different.
I am concerned about him absorbing a Canelo punch, especially through the course of 12 rounds. We tried to do that with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, and we see how that panned out. You know what I mean? So best we
say like, no, that's two more weight classes. Like once he gets touched by Canelo, it's going to be different. I am concerned about him absorbing a Canelo punch, especially through the course of 12 rounds. We tried to do that with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, and we see how that panned out. You know what I mean? So best we don't do it. Boxing pros have just warned Terence Crawford not to fight Canelo Alvarez. Hardly anyone foresaw Terence Crawford's junior middleweight debut turning into a nail-biter, yet Uzbekistan standout Israel Madov pushed Bud to his limits. Now voices like Tiap Lopez are echoing the sentiment that Crawford stands little chance against Canelo Alvarez. Lopez contends that Bud would be wiser to avoid a showdown with the Mexican powerhouse. He said the age is catching up to Crawford. I would love to get Crawford now before it catches up to him later on. All I can say now is let's see what he does next. I don't think he should fight Canelo. I think he should fight the guy that is coming up next. Teofimo among the voices decrying the perceived injustice in the Israel Madov versus Terence Crawford bout. Eddie Hearn's outrage stood out the most as Madam's promoter Hearn was especially incensed by Judge Fernando Vel's scorecard, which awarded Crawford a 6-112 victory in the aftermath of the bout. The Matchroom boxing chairman didn't hold back criticizing the judge's scorecards as a complete waste. Hearn bluntly stated that in his view Bud simply didn't deliver what was needed to secure the victory. Hearn said it's a waste of time. It's not a 116-112 fight. Madoff was in the fight. He was coming into the fight as a champion ion. But because he is fighting Terence Crawford, he doesn't get a shake. All of the effective punches were coming from Israel Madov. It was a super close fight. I believe when you come into that ring as a champion, you've got to take the belt off that champion. Terence Crawford didn't do that. Sean Porter is steering the narrative towards Crawford's potential legacy, defining bout with Canelo Alvarez. As Crawford aims to secure another belt in his fourth weight division, his true ambition is to ascend yet another weight class. The question is why this move edges the two-division undisputed champion nearer to the realm dominated by Canelo Alvarez. After dismantling Errol Spence last year, Crawford has had a singular focus to conclude his career with a triumphant bout against Canelo, the reigning unified super middleweight champion. Although Canelo has largely ignored the call-out, fans are buzzing with speculation. However, Porter, who understands Crawford's capabilities intimately, has expressed his concern. Predicting this fight is no easy task, especially considering Crawford's commanding victory over a top-tier boxer like Errol Spence. Nevertheless, in a conversation with Marcos Vos from Fight Hub TV, Porter discussed the challenges Crawford faces as he moves up two weight classes and the significant power disparity between fighters in these different divisions. I am concerned about him absorbing a Canelo punch, especially through the course of 12 rounds, Porter confessed. Porter offered a compelling analysis predicting that Canelo would follow a familiar pattern and tire as the fight progressed. This led Porter to anticipate that Canelo would come out aggressively, aiming to overwhelm Crawford. Early on, he believed Canelo would try to bang on Crawford and break him down before reaching the later rounds where Crawford's superior stamina would give him the edge. However, Sean Porter expressed uncertainty about predicting the winner of fight between Crawford and Canelo, noting that many components make a champion and suggesting that discussing all the attributes Terence Crawford possesses could easily take an hour. Porter might not be sure if Bud could pull off the win, but Crawford's other former opponent does. We do know this about Canelo. He's going to slow down, you know. So I think if anything, Canelo would try to start fast and bang on him and break him down before he gets later, and he's still got that kind of steam. But you know, there's so many components that make a champion, there's so many components that make a great legend, and there's components that not too many people are privy to knowing and understanding. And for me to explain it is a little, it's a little, it would probably kind of go over your head. And I don't mean that you guys aren't intelligent and can't receive what I'm saying, but it's just so much to go into. It's a conversation that lasts an hour easily when we talk about all of the components that Terence Crawford has, all of the components that Canelo have, and how we find how they even out and who trumps one another. You know what I mean? Since his bout with Crawford last year, the truth has been absent from the ring for over a year. Although talks of a potential match with Sebastian Fonder later this year or in the air, Spence had the chance to trigger his rematch clause with Crawford, but decided against it. Whether it's due to a need for more preparation or a dwindling sense of hope, it's clear that Spence fully recognizes the immense challenge that Terence Crawford presents. According to a tweet from TalkSport editor Michael Benson, The truth spoke on a potential fight between Crawford and Canelo. He said if Crawford wants to challenge himself to be great, let him try to be great, I'm with it. As for who he thinks will win, Spence's words exuded confidence in his former opponent. I'd be going for Bud. I don't know if he win or lose, but if anybody can pull it off, he can pull it off, Spence added. But Terence Crawford continues to entertain the idea of a high-profile showdown with boxing sensation Canelo Alvarez, especially after his recent triumph over Israel Madoff. Crawford, making his debut in the 154-pound division, battled the WBA champion through a grueling 12-round contest after winning by unanimous decision, but emerged as the 4-division world champion, with Madoff putting up the hardest fight the Nebraska native had seen in a long time. Though the newly crowned WBA super welterweight champion is keen to arrange a showdown with Alvarez, the undisputed 168-bits title holder Eddie Hearn has dismissed the matchup as insignificant. Hearn thinks Crawford should concentrate on fighting at his current weight of 154 pounds. Instead, following Mob's first career loss, the chairman of Matchroom Boxing was interviewed by the Stomping Ground. He said he can't fight at 168. Listen, the trouble he had against Madoff wasn't necessarily because of the size, it was a little bit because of that. But it was also because of the movement. He can't fight at 168. Canelo would mow through him. He should try and fight the big names at 154. On August 3rd, Terence Crawford bowled his flawless professional record to 41-0 with a decisive victory over Israel Madoff for the WBA super welterweight title, marking the Uzbekistani fighter's inaugural loss in his career. Prior to the fight, Turki Alek, the promoter of the Madoff-Crawford card, stated that he would want to see Canelo Alvarez and Bud face off in late 2024 or early 2025. After his decision victory over Madoff, the 4-division world champion was joined in the ring by Matchroom Boxing. He discussed his opponent's performance, saying he had fast feet, good rhythm upstairs, and he was strong. He was very disciplined. He wasn't coming in throwing wild shots like I expected him to do. He fought a good fight. When asked about a potential clash with Alvarez, he said, you know what I say, if the money's right, we've got to fight, but at the same time, he's got to fight. That he's focused on the potential showdown between Terence Crawford and Saul Alvarez remains a tantalizing prospect. But Canelo Alvarez must first honor his bout with Edgar Berlanga on September 14th. Following that, a matchup that would excite boxing enthusiasts could be on the horizon, though challenges might arise due to the weight disparity between the fighters. Israel Madoff's latest reflections stem from his unanimous decision loss to Crawford this Saturday. Experiencing Crawford's prowess up close, Madoff now regards him as the finest pound-for-pound fighter globally. When asked about a potential matchup with Canelo, Madoff expressed uncertainty, noting that his chances would hinge on the agreed-upon weight class. I don't know, it depends on what weight they fight at, but if they fight in Canelo's current weight class, then I think it will be very difficult for Crawford, because he's huge. Madoff noted, although he acknowledged that Crawford has punchant talent, he added, there's no doubt he has power. There's no doubt he has skills. I knew it. That's why this fight was so close. The topic of facing Canelo Alvarez came up before Bud's fight with Madoff, and his trainer Brian McIntyre told Boxing Scene that they are searching for greatness, and that he has to know he wants to get to the next level. Always after his victory over Mauve, Crawford's post-fight interview echoed Alvarez's sentiments, emphasizing that to secure a bout with the Mex fighter, a lucrative purse must be negotiated and agreed upon beforehand. I'm going to go back to my family, relax, enjoy this victory, and enjoy all my accomplishments in the sport of boxing, Crawford said. But Israel Madoff thinks Terence Crawford would have a very tough time going up to super middleweight to take on Saul. Canelo Alvarez, the newly dethroned champion, expressed satisfaction with his performance, noting that this was only his 11th professional bout. Madoff said, I felt good. I felt really good. I felt proud of myself. Like Eddie Hearn said, Crawford is really good. He's pound for pound best. He's one of the best in the world. He's not an easy fight. He knocked out the last 10 opponents. He fought Spence and others. He further added, I didn't feel like it was my toughest fight. There were some questions about how I won my world championship belt in my previous fight, and I think in this